Hey y'all, welcome to my channel or welcome back. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining us. If you are returning, you already know it. You are fabulous. All right, so today's video, this is another DIY video. Finally, I've got one up. This is a spring DIYs and I am very excited about it. So let's jump right in. Okay, so for this first DIY, I have got 3 of these little house-shaped, well, all of these are going to be house-shaped, but some of them came from the dollar store, Dollar General store, and then a few of them came from the Dollar Tree. Got to be careful with these because they do have little bitty tiny, like, well, they're nails, but I think they're called, like, finishing nails or whatever, super little tiny ones. These 2 houses were actually sent to me in a goodie box that I got from one of my viewers. Very nice. And then I picked up some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby a little while back. I've had it for a little bit, but I just tried to get paper that kind of matched each other but didn't exactly, if that makes sense. I wanted them to go together but not all be exactly the same. So did get those at Hobby Lobby. Now, the first thing I started out doing was I took a screwdriver, and do not do this because I ended up like cutting my finger while doing this. This was not a good idea. But anyways, we crafters, we do all sorts of stuff, don't we? Anyways, but I was trying to get the wording and like the embellishments off the front of these. Well, I figured out if I would use my heat gun to kind of get the glue loose a little bit, that it would come off easier. But like some of them, as if with this house that I'm working on right now, those little finishing nails were in there and it was very, very hard to get them off. But I did get everything cleaned up. I then took one of my little houses, I lined my paper up just right on it, so I had it squared off around the bottom, and then I took my finger and just rubbed it literally around this house. And then there was the imprint of the house. Super simple. I just cut it out with my scissors. I mean, this was a very, very easy DIY. This is a fun, like, beginner DIY, or maybe do this with your kids and let your kids pick out the paper and, you know, but it's super simple. There's nothing to it. No hot glue, no nothing like that. So this is definitely a very family-friendly project. So I went through and just did the same thing for each of those houses. Like with the ones that had the roof, I took my finger and rubbed around it. And then the other ones that were just shaped like a house, I just took a marker and drew around those. So super simple, but I cut each of those out. Then we're going to take some Aleene's tacky glue. Aleene's, whatever you want to call it. But it's tacky glue from the Dollar Tree. This glue has been around for ages. Do you hear me? Long time this glue's been around. It's good stuff, and I love it for projects like this right here because I'm not a big Mod Podge person. I do not like the crinkly and the, like, it ruins the paper to me when you put Mod Podge. But anyways, to each his own. I just like the Aleene's because you can glue it straight down and then you don't have to put anything over the top of it. It's glued. It's there. It's not going anywhere. So I just went through and did this same step to each one of these. I took a sponge brush and just kind of sponged it on. Made sure that the coat was nice and even, nice and flat, super smooth, and then just laid my paper right on top of it. Very, very simple. Okay, so for this last little house, I decided I would leave the word home on it. And I just took the little, like, starfish or whatever was up at the top. I don't remember. Some kind of seashell or something. I just took it off. And then I took my paper and cut out one of the little pictures. Well, I actually cut out 2. Like, one of the pictures and then a little piece of the other one. And then I just glued those down to this house. And these were done, guys. These are so stinking cute. And I love the pink in them. I love it. I love these. Okay, so for this one, I have got this gorgeous charger plate that I picked up at the Goodwill for $2.99. Is this thing not gorgeous? Oh my gosh. And then I've got one of these bell cloche from the Dollar Tree. That's just one of like the extra large cloches. I just took a wet paper towel and cleaned this up, just wiped it off really good so that my paint would, adhere well. But I just cleaned it up good and then went through and painted it with my plaster chalk paint by Waverly. Now, I gave this like 2 really good coats. I wanted it distressed in the end, but I was making sure that it had a nice, really good coat to begin with before I distressed it. I wanted it completely covered. That way I could go back with my sandpaper and distress it exactly where I wanted it distressed. You'll see throughout this video that I use the plaster color a lot. So I really wanted a lot of that plaster color, but look at the detail that comes out when you run that sandpaper over it. Okay, now I got these succulents from the Dollar Tree. Some have clips on them, some are in pots, some are actual succulent picks. And then I've also got a bag of reindeer moss, all from the Dollar Tree. Now, all we're going to do here is take the hot glue gun and make us a couple lines across there and then start applying the reindeer moss. I wanted it strictly in that center portion of the plate. And y'all, doesn't that plate look gorgeous after it's distressed? When I saw this sucker in the Goodwill, I immediately knew, like, oh my gosh, that would be so pretty. Like the detail that will come out in there. All right, so I covered the entire center of this with my reindeer moss. Kind of set it on its side and shook it to see what was going to fall out and where my holes would be. And then I just kind of filled in anywhere that was missing, the reindeer moss. Like I used a whole bag, but I wanted it pretty thick in there. I then took my scissors and trimmed it, but I only trimmed it around the circle portion. Like I didn't trim any of the middle because I wanted it to be kind of fluffy in the inside, but I wanted that center portion to be very defined. You know what I'm saying? Cleaned up around there. So once I got that done, I took the succulents, either pulled the clip off, cut the little stem, whatever. But however I had to do it, I got it down to where it was pretty well flat on the bottom. That way I could glue them all down to my moss. Now, the succulents that are on the pick, you have to cut the bottom of this. You can't just pull it off of the pick because the whole thing will fall apart. Now, you can glue it all back together if you want to, but I just used my scissors, got it as far as I could, and then snapped it off. I'm going to add a generous amount of hot glue and then just start adding these dudes. I'm just going to pop them in there randomly here and there. Now, I did place the tallest one in the center, but then from there on, I just started placing them. This turns out so pretty, y'all. Oh, it's very pretty. Very, very pretty. I cannot wait for my new house, guys. I have so many different ideas of stuff to do and just different things. I cannot wait for y'all to be a part of it, for us to be able to share that with you guys. That's going to be amazing. But yeah, that's it. That's what we did. Now, this is one last thing I wanted to show y'all. So I had the bright idea to use oh yeah. Do not use your heat gun to take the tag off of the cloche. Thank goodness I had another one and was able to actually get the tag off of it. And here you have it. I think this turned out fantastic. Okay, so for this next one, y'all, I found the coolest dang things. Okay, so these are, I'm assuming, legs to like a couch or maybe a chair, but they were $3.99 for 2 of them, and then I also gave $5.99 for 5 of them. So I have 2 different sets of them, a dark set and then this lighter set. Now, I did take a screwdriver and pop off the little, I guess, legs that were actually on one of them. Now, I had already done it on one of the darker colored ones, and I was doing this so I could demonstrate it for y'all how I did it, and then I realized that I only needed one of them done like this, but that's besides the point. We have it. We're going to make this work. Now, I got this little Dremel on Amazon, y'all. The first person I ever seen use something like this was Courtney from Creative on the Cheap. I totally have to give her credit because that is where I saw this used. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a handy little tool. Like, it does a lot. So I got my little Dremel out and I used it to sand down the sides. And inside this little wood block, where the circle was cut out, it was really rough inside there. Like, it looked like chunks were like took out of it. I don't know. It looked like it had been gnawed on, I swear, but I don't think it actually had been. You know what I mean? It was really messed up. But anyway, so I did use my Dremel, clean it out really good. The Dremel is so handy. You can even use it. It came with drill bit heads, and you can use this Dremel to poke holes in things. So if you need like holes in pictures, yeah. All right, now, not the safest idea, but it worked. I took a screwdriver and just went at these things. I just wanted them to look roughed up, old, whatever. We're going to distress them, but I needed them to look, I wanted the texture of them to be messed up. Now, I just simply hot glued 2 of these together. I wanted a taller one and then a shorter one. Now, one I'm going to use as a candlestick. The other one we're just going to use like as a riser for an actual candle, like in a jar. So I just hot glued them together. Now, when I did that, there was like a little bit of a gap. So I just took my hot glue and filled that in and then ran my finger across the edge of it and kind of filled it in like caulk, I guess you would say. Now, any excess I was able to rub right off. I end up taking my sanding sponge and kind of going over the top of the hot glue just to get any kind of excess off. I only wanted it right down in that little groove, the little opening in between the 2 blocks. So as I said, I just took my sanding block, went over the top of it, but it was perfect. Like, it filled it in perfectly. Now, I'm going to be using my plaster chalk paint, of course, and I'm just going to give both of these 2 really good coats. Like I said, we're going to go back and distress them, but I wanted to start out with a clean, nice coat of paint, and then we'll go back and distress them. So 2 really good coats, super easy. These turn out so stinking cool. I just love them. I just think they're so different. I love them. Now, I was going to use my sanding sponge, and I thought, you know what? That's a little bit of work. So I decided just to take my Dremel and sand these down in the specific, places that I wanted the distressing to be. So it was very easy to do. I saved myself a lot of, shoulder pain as far as sanding these the whole time, just hand sanding them. So this Dremel is just so versatile. It is so neat to have. I'll have a link in the description box for it if you would like to check it out. Now, I will be honest with y'all. The first one I ordered did not work. It literally came in the mail or whatever, like off of FedEx. It would not even come on when I plugged it in. So I don't know what was up with that, but Amazon immediately sent me a new one. Like, I contacted them, let them know what was going on. They immediately sent me a new one. It was here within like 2 or 3 days, and it has worked perfectly. Now, when I was through sanding them, I just wiped them down with a, damp paper towel, and that was it. I love these, y'all. Okay, so for this one, I have got a sign that I picked up from the Goodwill. I believe I gave like $2.99, $3.99 for this, something like that. And then I've got some of these rub-on transfers that come from the Dollar Tree. And I've also got a silk screen transfer that came from Amazon. This is not a chalk couture. This is from Amazon, including the chalk paste. That is also from Amazon. I just found it on Amazon way cheaper, and I thought I would give it a shot, just see how it worked, let y'all know, and we'll see. But anyway, so the first thing I did was go through and just pry up the little like clip things that were on the back of this sign so that I could get the sign part out from the frame. I just wanted the sign away from the frame. That way I could paint them separately. I knew it would just be a lot easier, and it really did work out a lot easier. Now, I don't show it, but I did go through and pull out each of those little clips on the frame. That way, when we get ready to put this back together, it's not a pain in the butt. You know what I mean? So, I painted the sign part of this with my white Adirondack chalk paint. I painted the frame with my plaster chalk paint by Waverly. Now, I just gave both of these 2 really good coats. I just wanted to cover everything up. Now, for the sign, I go over it once the white is completely dry. I take a sponge brush from the Dollar Tree and my Mod Podge, and I go over this sign. Now, I did that so that the silk transfer would not pull off any of my paint, but that sponge brush from the Dollar Tree made little bitty black dots all over my sign. You can't really see them, but you can. You could see them in person a lot. I tried to show them here best I could. But anyway, so I do go back over it with white paint and then back over it with the Mod Podge with a different brush this time. Okay, now, when I have got everything ready, I've distressed my frame. I've got my Mod Podge dry, completely dry on my sign. I'm going to take my silkscreen stencil. I believe I called it a transfer earlier. It's a stencil. And just fuzz it. Now, all I had was like a kitchen towel. I don't have the actual like fuzzing towel, but I think this worked fine. Now, something I did learn with chalk couture is you fuzz it, and fuzz it some more. You know what I mean? So I did fuzz it really, really well. I used my tape measure to make sure that I had this perfectly centered. Just laid it out, kind of measured it on each end, and then I just simply smoothed it down. Just like you would do with a, adhesive stencil. Just smooth it out. Then I'm going to take some of this chalk paint or chalk paste and the edge of a craft stick. I just cut off a piece of craft stick, and I'm just going to smooth this in right over the top of my word. Super, super simple, y'all, and it turns out awesome. Now, any excess, I just kind of tried to get off and then put back in the bottle. I'm going to peel this back and check it out, y'all. It worked perfectly. And the awesome thing about these stencils is you just wash it. Like, wash it off literally with soap and water, let it dry, and it is sticky all over again. So that worked out perfect. Now, I did have a couple spots where I had gotten off the edge of the transfer that I had to hit with my white paint just to clean that up real quick, but that was super simple. I then take these rub-on transfers, and I'm going to cut out just the little wreath. So it's like the center part of those transfers. So I cut out just the little wreath. I kind of eyeballed those as far as where to place those on each end. But the thing about these transfers is once you lay that dude down, you better know where you want it because there is no picking it back up. So I just rubbed those in with the other end of that popsicle stick that I had. Just made sure to rub those down good and then peeled back the transfer tape. These are so easy to use, and they really look nice. Now, I hot glued this sign back into the frame, so I just added a very thin bead. I didn't want a lot of hot glue because I didn't want it to ooze back out the front of the sign. And I did have one little spot that did, but I was able to kind of scratch that off with my fingernails. Super easy, but all I did was just glue this sign right back into the frame. This was so simple to do, and I think this turns out fantastic. I absolutely love this. I cannot wait to put this in my new house. I love it. All right, last but not least, and probably one of my favorites from today. This was so simple to make. Okay, so I found these gorgeous frames at the Dollar Tree. I've also got some of the wood planks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using my plaster chalk paint, of course, and also a chip brush along with my hot glue gun. Now, I went through and opened up each of these frames. Are these frames not gorgeous, y'all? We are going to add some paint to these, but let me just tell you, you don't have to do anything to these. These are gorgeous, just like they are. So I went through, took out all the glass. I pulled off all the little clips that were in them. I'm going to take my plaster chalk paint and my chip brush and just very heavily distress these or dry brush these, excuse me. So I wanted the distressing to still pop out on these, but I wanted them to be more of that plaster color, just to kind of go with everything we've got going on today. And then as you can see there, all I did was dry brush these, and they're perfect. I mean, they literally turned out perfect. I love them. Check it out. They dry brush so well. Oh my goodness. I love these. Now, I saved the back part of these pictures, the little black part with the stand. Those are so handy to have, y'all. So save those. They come in handy with lots of different projects. Now, I'm just going to glue 4 of these frames together to form a box. We're going to do that first. So we've done this a million times. Just glue it into a box. Add some hot glue to both edges of this and then pop down that last piece. So now we've got our box. That was super simple. I'm going to take the other 2 pieces and we're going to glue those to the top. Now, I did have to have my son hold this and help me, and I actually held it together while he added this last little bit of glue. So I just added that little top part and then rubbed my finger across it to fill it in. So kind of like caulk, but it worked out perfect. This stayed together very well. I mean, this just turned out so awesome. I did take some of the white paint and go over the top there just to make sure that I covered up any of the hot glue that was showing or anything like that. Now, when it was done, I realized that the inside was still really like tan colored. You could see it a lot. So I did take my brush and just go through and simply dry brush the inside of this. Now for the bottom, I was going to use the wood planks from the Dollar Tree, but it was too small. So I ended up getting 2 of the other kind of wood planks from the Dollar Tree, the more like rectangled ones. I put 2 together and then added a popsicle stick or a craft stick, whatever you want to call it. I cut the ends off of it and just made a platform for this to sit on. So we just simply made a bottom for this. It was so super simple. I just glued the 2 pieces together with the craft stick, and then now we're going to glue this directly on top of that. That way, like for instance, I added greenery to this and just left it like that. But you could add like a flameless candle or, like the LED candles or something. But I wanted there to be a bottom to this, so that way if I did decide to add a candle or something, it would hold it in there. So super simple. This was a very simple DIY, but it is really cute. And I think it's like a conversation piece almost. Like I love it. I absolutely love this. Okay, so this is the current situation as I try to edit. Yeah, hi, bub. You're up close and personal, dude. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, okay. Y'all, this is such a mess. They are such a mess. Oh my goodness. Sweet babies. All right, y'all, that is it for today. I thank you so much for being with me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It definitely does help my channel. Also, share this with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe. That would be awesome. Plus, hit that notification bell so that you will know each time I upload a new video. All right, guys, thank you so much. And y'all have a blessed day.